Welcome, fellow bookworms, to TBR's Den. My name is Whitney, and today we have my March wrap up. So March was actually a pretty good month. It was a little bit lighter as far as reads went, and I was actually able to read everything from my TBR game. Now, I didn't get everything read that I had officially on my TBR, but as long as I finish my game books, I actually get a reward token. So I have a little reward token here, and I can use this at any point when I play my game, and this just allows me to skip a Hunny Jar prompt if I want to, and then I just use the genre prompt. So this will be handy. I'm going to put it in there, and it'll just kind of hang out until I decide to use it. I really like my Hunny Jar prompts, so I doubt I'll use them very often, but I have them in case I want to. If I'm really struggling to find something, I can just go with the genre. And yeah, so that is that. And I also did get a couple rollovers read. Like I said, the ones that I didn't really get read were ones that have been on my TBR, that I've been trying to just fit in, not ever actually officially putting on my TBR. So really overall, I had a great month. So we're going to go through my reading journal just like normal. And I'll put the pages up here on the screen so that way you guys can see. So first up, I again tracked what I was reading each day, which book, and how many pages I read each day. My best day was on the 9th. I read 87 pages from one book and then 397 pages from another, which, I mean, the other one was Death Note, so it was a manga, and the other one was really easy reads. So, um, but still, that's the highest number of pages I read in a day. There was also one day on the 10th where I listened to 4 hours of What Lies Beneath. I was driving, and so I was able to listen to quite a bit of that audiobook, which was really nice. And then my worst day was day 3. I was working on Dry Water. That book was so hard to get through, so I really struggled with that. And on the 3rd of March, I only read 32 pages. So, average, I would say I probably read between 200 to 300 pages a day. I haven't actually figured out the average, but yeah, that's that. So now we're gonna go ahead and go through the prompts I got and which books were fulfilling those prompts. So first up, I got Winnie the Pooh, which was a classic or comfort read. That's the character I rolled. And so for this one, there's actually 4 books. And so these 4 books fulfilled the Winnie the Pooh prompt. It also fulfilled the first roll, which was I landed on purple, which was any genre, and I got the 3 bears, which was a homey comfort. So again, these 4 books, they're part of a series. They're rereads for me. I reread them frequently. So they are very just home and comforting. And it's all about coming home. So that worked perfectly. And then I also had 4 unusable discs at the end. So these books also fit for those 4 unusable discs because there's 4 books in the series. And so the series just kind of went for all 3 of those prompts, and that's the Chesapeake Bay Saga by Nora Roberts. So the first book is Sea Swept, and then we have Rising Tide, then we have Inner Harbor, and lastly is Chesapeake Blue, which is my favorite of the series. So those are all rereads. So then we jump down to roll 2, which landed us on a blue square, and we got Puss in Boots, which was a sword element, and blue is sci-fi. So for this one, I went with the Toll by Neal Shusterman, which is the 3rd book in the Arc of a Scythe series, and they are able to glean with a variety of weapons, including blades. Now, it never specifically said swords, but there were blades involved in this one, and I figured that was the closest I was going to get anyway, especially with what I had on my shelf. So that filled that prompt. Then we had roll 3, we got a green and we got a bookworm. And so this was a free pick, but green is fantasy. So it was any fantasy I could choose. And for this one, I decided to help myself out and I wanted to continue the Dresden Files. I'm finally ready. I kind of took a hiatus from that series for a while. And I was ready to return to this, so this was my choice for that. This is the 14th book in the Dresden Files series, Cold Days, and again, that's by Jim Butcher. So that fulfilled that prompt. Then roll 4, we got a purple, which is any genre. And we also landed on Pooh's Corner, which was a special square, which also kind of negates the genre anyway. So it would have been any genre either way. And I got Gopher, and it's in my day, read a historical fiction. So it kind of worked that it was any genre. But for this, I went with a historical fantasy, and this is Romanov by Nadine Brandes. And yeah, got that one read for that. So let's see here. Then we have roll 5. We landed on another blue, so another sci-fi. And we got Bookworm, read once, need more. Now, with my rules, if I can't fulfill the genre and the Hunny Jar prompt together, I just go with the Hunny Jar prompt. And there's no sci-fi that I've only read one book by that author, and I want more of it. And so I didn't worry about the genre. And for this one, I went with the 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. I read The Once and Future Witches by this author and absolutely loved it. And I've been wanting to read this book ever since then. So I was really happy to finally get it on there. Then roll 6, we got another purple, so again, any genre. And we got The Big Bad Wolf, a dog pick. And so for this one, I don't remember what I gave her to choose from. And if you're interested, you can go look at that video. But I had Ani choose, and she chose Lessons from Lucy by Dave Barry, which this one I've been wanting to read for a very long time. Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading sent this to me, and I've been wanting to read it since, but I kind of had a project in mind to go with it, and so I was really happy to finally get that read. Then roll 7, we landed on a red, which is romance, and we got a heffalump, and they're multiplying, so a book that's part of a series. And for this one, I went with my buddy read, which was Crystal Cove by Lisa Kleypas. I've been buddy reading the Friday Harbor series with B over at Mama Needs to Read Romance, and this was the last book in that series. So, but that worked out perfectly. And then we got orange on roll 8, which is mystery or thriller. And we got owl, and it's an I can read ABC book. So that means a random letter generator for the title of the book. And we got the letter T. So for this one, I chose Track of the Cat by Nevada Bar. So that worked out perfectly. Then we had a bunch of rolls that we couldn't move forward, and we finally got a roll where we were able to land on blue, which was the last space. Got us to the North Pole. So again, a sci-fi, and we got The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and this is a book with a disability rep, and so a sci-fi with a disability rep. And I've been participating in Autism Reads, which is put on by Christine over at an autistic reader. And for the month of March, the choice was On the Edge of Gone by Corrine Duvis. And so that worked out perfectly because it has autism rep. And yeah, really, really good on that one. And then I already talked about the 4 unusable discs. And so that worked. And then as far as my genre-a-thon, which is my own readathon that's a year long. Each month we just focus on different genres. There's normally like 2 choices for genre, and it's just trying to kind of get myself outside of my comfort zone. And so for this one, not very creative for March, it was Mama March, and it was either read a manga or a memoir. And memoirs are definitely in my comfort zone, but I love them, and so I decided to just fulfill both prompts. So for manga, I continued on with Death Note. I got the Black Edition Volume 2, which has Volumes 3 and 4 in it, because the first Death Note was the first manga I've ever read, and it's definitely outside my comfort zone. So that fulfilled that prompt. And then for memoir, I chose Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. because, like I said, I love memoirs, and I've been wanting to read that one for a while. So then I also listened to What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. Um, I've been kind of adding on an audiobook each month and just something I can listen to when I'm busy with something else and get another book consumed that way. And I also needed a somebody's favorite for Kim from Expedition Through Pages. Her game Tales from Two Trails. It's interactive. It's kind of us against her, and I needed somebody's favorite. So I asked my sister. She loves Stephen King. Stephen King's her favorite author. I'm not a Stephen King fan, so I just asked her, "What's another favorite of yours other than Stephen King?" Because I'm like, I ain't doing Stephen King, and so she had just or read that one, and she's like, I absolutely loved it. So I'm glad she recommended that, and I listened to that. And then we have our rollovers. So there's two books that I continued. The first is The Choice by Nora Roberts, which I had already previously started, and then my husband and I continued. We didn't get this finished, but we will be continuing it on. We're about not quite halfway through, almost. And then I've also been working on Little Women since December, since the end of December. And so I continued on with that one as well. Those were both rollovers. Then I had a rollover from February, and per my game, my punishment, which isn't really a punishment, is one of the books that if I didn't get them all completed from my game, I have to roll over one of those books and read it before I can start on the current month's TBR. So for that one, I went with Dry Water by Eric S. Nyland. This was my husband's pick. It was a loved one pick, was the prompt. And so I wanted to go ahead and roll that one over. And so I did roll that one over and I did get it read. And then we had Invictus by Ryan Groden, which was on February's TBR. Or no, this one was from January, sorry. This one's been being rolled over since January. And so I rolled it over again because I did want to get that one read. And I did actually get this one read, so that helped. And then we come to the four books that I did not get read at all, which were all rollovers. So the first one was another rollover from January, and that's The Sight by David Clement Davies. And this one is not going to continue to roll over. The prompt for this was Leading the Tramp, and it was animal main characters. And I decided, and I think it was the genre was romance, which this is not a romance book. And I decided, since I haven't gotten to it, I'm going to go ahead and put it back on my shelf for now and hopefully get to it. So this prompt will actually go back into the Hunny Jar for the next round, which will be May. So that one is going back on the shelves. And then I still have my two from my ABC Author Challenge, which I was hoping to complete in December and I never did. And so these ones are continuing to roll over because I do still need to complete that challenge. It's just a matter of fitting them in. I don't think I'm going to get to them in April at all. So I'm hoping to officially get them on my May TBR. But the first one is Eve by W.M. Paul Young. And so this one's going to continue to roll over. And then the other one is Who is the River by Paul Zallis. So again, that one's going to continue to roll over as well. And then the last one, I've just been trying so hard to fit on to my TBRs if I have extra time, which I haven't been having extra time, is There by Tommy Orange. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on my shelf and just try really hard to get it officially on a TBR at some point. Or if I have a light month, I would pull it off. But I'm not going to keep rolling it over because I think I've been rolling it over since like November. So this one's also going back on the shelf. But it was never part of the game or anything, so there's no prompt. So these two are being shelved, and then I have four that are rolling over. The two that I haven't even started from my ABC Author Challenge, and then Little Women and The Choice, which I'm just going to be continuing to read. I'm taking my time with them. The Choice I'm reading with my husband, so I can't just sit down and read it. We both have to be kind of in the mood, and we've been getting to bed late and such. So those will continue to roll over. Two more that I haven't started will roll over, and then the other two will go back on the shelf. So that is that. I also had I did participate in Kim's Tales from Two Trails game, which I didn't participate in any other like readathon or anything like that. And so for book that matches the season, I use the 10,000 Doors of January for that one, because it has flowers on the cover, and so it looked very spring-like to me. And there was a couple of places I marked that had quotes that were spring. I think I put those ones in green. So like here, that one doesn't. Let's see here. Okay, maybe I marked them in a different color because those aren't the spring ones. But anyway, so yeah, this was for book that matches the season for her game. So we got that, and then finish a book you've already started. I was hoping to finish either Little Women or The Choice because I had previously started both of those. I didn't get that done, so I did not fulfill that prompt. Reread an old favorite. I went with Chesapeake uh, Blue by Nora Roberts because that's my favorite of that series. So that worked for that. Read somebody else's favorite book. I already mentioned it was What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall because I asked my sister. And then a book with 200 and something pages. I went with Lessons from Lucy by Dave Barry because it has 225 pages. I had several that had 200 something pages. So those worked. And then for first book in a series, I went with Sea Swept by Nora Roberts because it's the first book in the Chesapeake Bay series. So that is that. I think that takes care of everything. Little Women was also going to be for the viewer prompt from Amy at A Star Reads. Her game, she does viewer prompt, and it was to read a book that's been featured in a TV or movie. And again, I never finished that, so I didn't fulfill that prompt either, but that's okay. So now we're going to go ahead and go through the star ratings. So I'm going to get the books kind of back organized, and I go from the lowest, and they're so like as far as star ratings go, it's lowest to highest. So it's lowest even in a like if they're all 5 stars, I go lowest to highest as well as far as my enjoyment. So let me get them organized and then I'll come back and we'll go through the star ratings. All right. So I did not have any DNFs, which was really good. I did have a couple that I was really tempted to DNF, but I pushed through. So the bottom of the barrel, which was a 2-star read, because DNFs, if I DNF it, it's a 1 star. As far as my journal goes, I don't actually star rate. I never have a 1-star rating as far as like on Goodreads or Storygraph or anything like that. Because I figure if just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean it's not a good book. It just wasn't for me. And so I don't do that. So bottom of the barrel for me, if I make it through it, is a 2-star. And the worst read of the month was Dry Water by Eric S. Nyland. Now, I read this because it was my husband's pick, and he kept, talking about kind of this event that takes place in it. And so I wanted to get to that point, and he's like, you gotta get to that point where he finds the river, and it's basically the river of time. And so I did push through, and my husband said, the writing is not good, and reading some of the reviews and such. The premise is really cool, and it has some great moments that really do stick with you. And so that's kind of frustrating that the writing is not very good because it could have been a really, really great book. But basically, you have, I forget his name, Larry, and it takes place in New Mexico. So he's coming through New Mexico, and something's trying to kind of get him, and he's kind of seeing things and is kind of not sure what's going on. And he ends up going to this river, which is the River of Time, and that river is kind of tied to the events. And then there's something called dry water that allows you to kind of access the river and such. It is kind of interesting, and the way the river works and such was really kind of cool. like I said, had moments like these lightning storms and such, which were just sounded so cool, but the writing just was so rough. And like there's two other characters. There's like two um antagonists, and they're just, I don't know. I didn't really like, it did not mesh well. The premise was there. It had some atmospheric moments that were really cool, but it just didn't mesh well. And so this was the bottom of the barrel. It was rough to get through. Then I had one other 2-star read, so just two stars, and that was Crystal Cove by Lisa Kleypas, which the last book in the Friday Harbor series, which was Dream Lake, was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. And this one did not need to be written. B and I were both talking, like, it didn't need to be, which I kind of had that mindset going in, because the first 3 books follow the 3 Nolan brothers. And this one is the cousin slash friend of a couple of the other characters, which are love interests for the Nolan brothers. So it really didn't need to be. And again, it could have been cool. There was this witchy aspect, and she kind of has this curse placed on her, which could have been really, really cool. But the guy, the love interest in this, was absolutely horrible. He had like no redeeming qualities. He was just a jerk. And kind of the conflict and such, he never like acknowledged his role in it. And so it was just, he was just a jerk. And the way this character just kind of forgives and forgets was really frustrating and such. Um, and again, the writing, there was kind of a lot going on that didn't need to be going on, and it just never really gelled. And then you have this unlikable character that you really can't get behind anyway. So yeah, this was the other 2-star. It was easier to read than the other one. Dry Water took me almost a week to read, which was absolutely horrible for a 300-page book. So that's the only redeeming quality, was the writing was easy to read, but it was really rough. And another one that I was considering DNFing, except I just wanted to finish the series. And buddy reading it with B, I was like, gonna keep pushing on. And I was kind of interested in the curse aspect of this, but it just, without a good love interest, and the writing, like I said, never kind of quite came together in this book. It just fell really, really flat, which is a shame for the end of the series, and it didn't need to even be part of the series in the first place. So that was that. Then we had 3 3-star reads. So these were all the ones I kind of read at the beginning of the month, and I think, oh, this is gonna be a rough month. So we have 3 3-star reads. So the bottom of the barrel for 3 stars is Lessons from Lucy by Dave Barry. Uh, Again, he's kind of one of those authors that goes off on tangents, which is something I really, really struggle with. Like, that's besides the point. It doesn't need to be in there. And then this one is about, um, so it's him and lessons he takes from his dog Lucy, because she just finds joy in everything, and he's getting older and he's realizing he's not as joyful as he could be. So he's kind of looking at lessons from her, and so each chapter is kind of a breakdown of a different lesson. And there were moments where it was really, really funny. And I was like, I could relate to that, and I'm a big dog person, but those tangents that he went off and some of the humor I just didn't really enjoy. This was almost a 2-star, but I did have moments of enjoyment, so that's why it ended up being a 3-star for me. Then our next 3-star is Track of the Cat by Nevada Barr. And so this one you have Anna Pigeon, and this is the first in that series. And she's a park ranger, and she comes across this body on when she's out and about, and everybody's blaming it on a cat. It's been staged to look like it was an attack by a cat, and so nobody believes that it's anything else but her. And so she's kind of trying to figure out what happened, why this ranger was where they weren't supposed to be, and what happened because she just didn't believe it was a cat, and she's trying to save the cats where others in the area are trying to get rid of them, like the ranchers and such. And so this one, I like the location because it's kind of West Texas slash New Mexico, which is where I'm at. Well, I'm southern New Mexico slash East New Mexico. So kind of really close to Texas. Texas isn't that far. We were just there yesterday. So yeah, I like that. It was kind of atmospheric. It is a little bit dated, like again, which I had read The Tunnels by Michelle Gagnon, and I was frustrated with that because it used like mental health conditions as a reason why that person might be suspect. This one did the same. Now, this one was actually written in the 90s where the other one was not. So the other one was like 2007. This one was, I think, 19. I'll tell you here in a second. Um, Maybe I'll tell you. Here we go. 1993. So it makes sense, that this would be a little bit more dated in that sense. So that kind of got on my skin, like, they're crazy, like they've been in a psychiatric facility, so that automatically means they're violent. So that was a little bit frustrating with this, and again, some of the things didn't quite gel. But overall, I liked the atmosphere and it was a good time. I actually have the next book in the series, so I do plan on trying to read that at some point as well. I enjoyed it enough that I do want to read the other one I have. Now, I doubt I'm going to go out and buy any more unless that one's amazing. But we shall see. So there's that one. And then the next 3-star, which was actually 3.5 stars, is On the Edge of Gone by Corrine Duvis. Now, this one, I think the autism rep was really, really good in this one. I think, again, the author was just trying to do too much. So you not only have the autism rep, you also have a lot of social commentary around race, and you have a trans character, and then the mother's an alcoholic, and kind of worthless. And so there's a lot going on, a lot of conflict. In this one, there's a comet that hits Earth. This is set in the future. And so you have Denise, her mother, and her sister Iris. And Iris is the trans character. And so they are originally assigned to like these temporary bunkers, but they come across a ship, and so the whole book she's trying to secure herself a position on the ship along with her family, because it's like the last ship left and then they're gonna leave. But again, I just thought the author was just trying to do too much, and so that kind of took away from the story itself a little bit. And I thought there was some parts where it kind of lagged, like she kept going out trying to find Iris, and it was just kind of repetitive a little bit. And so that could have been sped up a little bit more if she had refined that a little bit. And at first, like the autism rep was really, really good. Like I could relate to a lot of stuff, but the narrative around it, I struggled with a little bit. Denise, the main character, was really in her head. So, and I get the author was probably trying to let like non-autistic people kind of know what it's like. So like the stimming, like she was really, really in her head about it. Like, okay, I'm doing this, which I get it, but like I'm not in that in my head when I'm stimming. I'm just stimming. I'm not like talking to myself. Oh, I'm doing this. I'm repeating. And she had a stim that got under my skin, even just in writing form. Um, I used to, when I was little, there was a boy in my class, and he used to run his hands, gives me the heebie jeebies even thinking about it, but he used to run his hands along the carpet, and I hated that. And so I always say, like, instead of like nails on a chalkboard, it's like hands on a carpet to me. And so she had the stem where she would do that like on her jeans or on like a seatbelt and such. And I just, oh, that got under my skin. So I didn't enjoy that, but that's her stem, whatever. Um, and it did kind of all come together. I did like the ending, the way it ended. I thought the character, because you kind of have another conflict. And so it's like she has to make this choice, and I did like the choice she made and how it ended up working out in the end. But like I said, there was a lot going on as far as the different social commentary and such. Um, and so that kind of just detracted away from it just a little bit. And then the way the character was so in her head in the beginning, and then it kind of smoothed out. So I'm pretty sure the author was just trying to get non-autistic people to kind of see what it's like, I guess. But anyway, pretty good book, and the autism rep is really really good. So I did enjoy that one. So that was 3.5. Then we have, let's see, 5 4 stars. And so the bottom of the barrel on that one was Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. I really enjoy Anna Kendrick. Like, I just like her personality and such. And so I've been wanting to read this for a long time. And it's basically, you have kind of her coming of age story, but also her journey into Hollywood as well. It did kind of get off track a little bit towards the end, which was a little bit weird. Like, really wasn't sure like how it all fit in there, but overall, like, if you like her personality, like when she's like talking on interviews and such, it's shown through in the book as well. Now, I will say she kind of goes into um detail about, like I say, it's a coming of age because she talks about, her experience with sex and such. And she does curse a lot throughout the book. So if that's something you don't like, keep that in mind. But I thought it it was her. So if you like her, I think you would enjoy this. And it was kind of cool seeing, her journey. Um, and it's not really so much like her experiences on the movies or anything, like a little bit, like she does talk a little bit, but just kind of her journey as a whole, and landing these roles, like just working, trying to get jobs and such. So pretty good. Like I said, if you like Anna Kendrick, it's definitely worth it. Then our next 4 star was Cold Days by Jim Butcher. So the last one, number 13, was Ghost Story, and I did not, it's the worst book by far in the series. And I really pushed to get to book 13. I was reading one or two of these each month, and then that one was such a letdown for me. I did not enjoy it at all, and that's kind of why I took a break from the Dresden Files. Now, this one was definitely redeemed it. I think this one is my favorite so far. I really, really enjoyed this one. Is finally, like, each time it kind of teases a little bit. Now you're actually, what's been happening behind the scenes in the series as a whole, he's kind of learning. And so it's really brought to the forefront in this, which I think is what I liked about it. Um, and yeah, this one was really, really good. So if you're not familiar with the Dresden Files, you have Harry Dresden, who is a wizard and a private detective in Chicago. And so he investigates like these magical crimes and such. And then, it spirals from there. There's a lot behind the scenes. You have a lot of different players. You have the White Council of Wizards. You have the White Court of Vampires, the Black Court of Vampires, the Red Court of Vampires, and then all these other. You have the fairies and such. You have Queens of Winter and Summer, which play a big role in the last several books, and so there's a lot. And then he has friends along the way as well. So this one was really, really good. I'm not gonna go in detail about it because obviously 14th book in the series. Don't want to give any spoilers, but I really, really like that one. Then my next 4 star was Death Note Black Edition Volume 2, which again has Volumes 3 and 4. I did not like Volume 3 in this. Like, it was kind of boring. You kind of have, so Death Note, you have Light, and he finds a Shinigami Death Note, the notebook, and any human's name you write down will die. And so Light has been writing down human names, um, of bad guys, trying to clean up the world. And then, of course, you have the task force who's trying to find him and figure out who's killing these people. So the first one you have on volume 3, you have him and the head guy for the task force, and they're kind of trying to outsmart each other the whole time. And so that kind of got like boring for me. I did not enjoy that. But in the 4th volume, it changes and there's a second character that has a death note now. And so I really, really enjoyed that volume. And I actually enjoyed it so much, I went out and got the rest of the manga series. So the rest of the Black editions, which has the entire volumes in there. So I'm going to be continuing on this one. As far as genre-thon goes, this was definitely a big success because I'm going to continue that series, and then I have the first 2 in the Spy Family series I hauled as well. So like I said, it definitely was a success as far as genre-thon because I'm not a big manga. I think part of it, getting used to reading manga. This was my second time I read the Black Edition Volume 1 already, and so just getting used to it and such. It's never going to be my favorite genre, but I did really, really enjoy this. So there is that. That was a 4-star for me. And it probably would have been a 5-star if it wasn't for the first half. Like I said, Volume 3 I just didn't enjoy. Then we have Romanov by Nadine Brandes, and I really wanted this to be a 5-star. I really wanted this to be a 5-star. I thought it was pretty cool the way. So it's basically the Romanov family, but there's a magical element, which if you've seen the Disney movie, there's a magical element there as well. And so it takes that, but what I liked, I read the author's note as well, and she tried to stay as true to historical events as possible while adding in that magical element. So I thought that was really cool. And there was just, I don't know, I didn't quite connect to the writing fully. And again, it kind of got a little bit boring. Like every day they're stuck in this house. And so that kind of got a little bit repetitive. So the pace could have been a little bit faster. But I still really, really enjoyed this. I was hoping it was going to be a 5-star read. It wasn't quite, it was just 4 stars. But it was still really, really good. And I liked that she took the actual historical part and incorporated that with the magic. Like I thought that was really, really cool. So really, really good. I definitely want to try more from this author. I'm really interested in Wistress. But yeah, not quite 5 stars, even though I wanted it to be. Then we have the top of my 4-star is the 10,000 Doors of January. And again, I really wanted this to be a 5-star. It definitely kind of let me down. This one was so brilliant. There was just something again about the writing, like there was just moments where it kind of drug a little bit. But it was such a brilliant, like the different doors to different worlds. And I loved how words, like in the one world, the words are very impactful and you can use them kind of in a magical way. So I thought that was really cool, and how all the different parts tied together. Which at the beginning there's a lot of different like little stories, and kind of jumping around, which took away from my enjoyment. But it all ties together in the end, in a really nice way. But it just, like I said, it didn't quite hit that 5-star mark. Like there was times where I was like, oh my goodness, come on. But I still thought this was a really brilliant book, and I still really, really enjoyed it. So definitely really liked that book. And I think I gave it 4.5 stars. Um, it just wasn't quite a 5-star for me. So now our 5 stars, we have 7 of these, which granted, you already know 4 of them are one of my favorite rereads. So it was a given they were going to be 5 stars. But bottom of the barrel is actually What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall, which again I listened to. I will say that it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. The only thing was I had pretty much figured out a bunch of the twists. I did not figure out the final twist though. And my sister, she was saying like, yeah, the twist at the end, like, I didn't see it coming. And I was thinking, when I was reading it and I'm figuring out these twists, like, really, you didn't see it coming? But there was one character which I kept doubting myself on. And the twist at the end with that character, I didn't see it coming. And looking back, like, once it was revealed, and I was like, okay, like, I should have seen that coming. Because there was moments I kind of questioned that character, but then I was like, no, it couldn't be because of this or whatever. And so that twist I did not see coming, but it was so good. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. But I did figure out a bunch of the twists, which is probably why it's a little bit lower, but still 5-star read. Like, so good. Um, Really, really good. So, and my sister's kind of a picky reader, so if she liked it, it's good, and then I really liked it. And so yeah, that was a good one. Basically, you have these three friends, and they're in the woods, and the one friend gets stabbed, and her testimony put along with her friends puts this man, the serial killer, away in prison. And then you're like 20 years later, and she's coming back, the one that got stabbed's coming back to her hometown and reconnecting with the other two friends. But she's realizing that maybe what she thinks happened didn't happen, somebody's lying, and so she's trying to figure out what's going on. Really, really good. Then we have Invictus by Ryan Groden. This one was so cool. Like, it jumps right in. The pace is really fast. This one's gonna be sticking with me for a while. But you have Far and I forget the other, Elliot. So you have Far, and he is part of this time. He's the captain of this time traveling crew, but they're kind of in the black market. So they're going back in time to steal artifacts to sell to the rich and famous, essentially. There's also time travelers that are on the up and up, like from the academy and such, that go back just to observe the past and such, and get maybe items to, like, for things that have been extinct and whatnot, to bring them back to life and whatnot. But with this, because of the time travel, something happens. So you also have these alternate realities, which are so cool. And so basically, the bulk of the story, like, kind of the conflict, Far and his crew go back to the Titanic, and they're trying to steal this object from the Titanic for their boss. And Elliot enters, and she takes the item and she's trying to become part of the crew and such. And there's something more going on with her. And so, yeah, it was so cool. You had the alternate realities and the time travel. And that's normally, like, it gets to be a lot for me. This one's YA. And so I think because of that, it was a little bit more simple and straightforward, and a little bit easier on my own brain to comprehend. And it was just so, so cool. And it, like, goes back to, like, the gladiators and such. Like, really, really cool book. I really enjoyed this one. That was actually my last read of March. It was so good. The next one we have is The Toll by Neal Shusterman, which is the third book in the Arc of a Scythe series. And I do have the next one. So it's a trilogy, but then you have Gleanings, which is a collection of stories. So I do have Gleanings as well that I still need to read. But in this one, you have Rowan and Citra. And in the first one, they're apprenticing to be scythes. In this world, humanity has conquered death. Um, and so, in order to keep populations in check, you have the scythes who glean people. And there's kind of this conflict between the new order and the old order. And then you also have the Thunderhead, which is not allowed to interact with the scythes at all, but otherwise kind of runs the world for humanity and such. It's such a cool series. And I really, really, really enjoyed this one as well. Again, with his writing, I've noticed with the other two, I did this too. In the beginning, again, it's all over the place. Like, there's a lot happening, but then it all ties together in a very cool way. So, really, really good. I really enjoyed that one. And then as far as the top of the list, we have my Chesapeake Bay Saga. So the 4 books there. In the last spot, my least favorite of the series is book 3, which is Inner Harbor. But this one, the reason it's the lowest is because the one brother, Philip, he's not my favorite brother. Like, he's very urbanite, fancy suits, wine, which is just not my type of guy. And so he's just my least favorite brother because of that. Um, but I do really still like this one. It's still 5 stars, just out of the series as a whole. That's my least favorite. And then my next one is book 1, which is Sea Swept. And so this is the first in the series. And again, that brother is not quite my type of guy. But I still really like him, and I like the female love interest in that one. And then we have my favorite, besides the last one, which is of the original trilogy, is book 2, um, which is Rising Tides, and this one. So you have Cameron in book 1, Ethan in book 2, and then Philip in book 3. And I really, really like Ethan. Like, he's my favorite. And so in these 3 books, you have the 3 brothers. They were originally adopted when they were like 12 to 13 by Ray and Stella Quinn. They all come from troubled backgrounds, and Ray and Stella Quinn took them in. Well, Stella's been passed on, but Ray ends up in an accident and passes on, and he has recently taken in another young boy, who's about 10. And so his dying wish is for these 3 to take care of that boy, um, to make sure he doesn't go back to where he was at. And so that's their story. So you have Cameron, he's originally in Europe racing cars, and he comes back home when he gets the call. And then you have Ethan, who's stayed where they grew up. And then Philip is just like an hour away. And so he's having to like commute and such. And then you have in their love interest why they're taking care of Seth, which is the main focus of the 4th book, which is Chesapeake Blue, and my favorite book. This was the very first Nora Roberts book I read and started my obsession with her. And so in this one, Seth is now an adult, and he's coming back home. He's running from some demons from the past, and he's coming back home. He's an artist now, and he's just ready to come home. And so yeah, this is my favorite of the series as a whole. But they're all really, really good, super easy to read, and I've read them so many times. They're definitely a comfort read for me. So that is the star ratings. My wrap ups get really long. Then, as far as stats go, so audio hours was 11 hours and 16 minutes. I just had the one audiobook. And then page count, we had 6,218, and that also includes the partial page count from the 2 books. Just what I read this month, not what I read previous months, and of course not what's left, but it does include that. I read 15 fiction, 2 nonfiction. 16 of those were physical, and 1 was audio, and then 4 were rereads, which of course was the Chesapeake Bay Saga. Genres, again, these kind of overlap, but there were 5 fantasy, 4 young adult, 4 science fiction, 4 romance, 4 contemporary, 3 mystery, 2 memoirs, 1 dystopian, 1 thriller, 1 manga, 1 historical, 1 essay, and 1 crime. My top moods were emotional, adventurous, and mysterious, which emotional, adventurous, and dark have been kind of top moods for me as well. Or mysterious. So emotional and adventurous are definitely the moods I tend to go for, and then mysterious or dark are kind of interwoven. My top 3 books, at number 1, we have Invictus. I just thought the whole premise of it and how it was done, because it gets so confusing when you have time travel and alternate realities and such. It can get really, really confusing. So how it was done, where I was able to understand it, the pace was nice and fast, and it pulled me in right away. It was just really good. So overall premise, the historical aspect as well, because you have the Titanic, you have the Gladiator games. Like, I really like Library of Alexandria. Like, the historical aspect I really like, the simplicity and pace, and then the characters. The characters were very, like, they each had their own like little quirks and such, and I just really enjoyed all the characters in the book. The number 2 spot goes to the 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Haro. The atmosphere in that book, I absolutely love the atmosphere. How the details came together at the end, I thought worked really, really well. The importance of book, there's a certain book that's really important to her, and then the words, like how the words have power in this book, I absolutely loved. And then just the worlds, like the different worlds that were part of the book, I thought was really, really cool as well. So really enjoyed that, even though it wasn't quite a 5-star read. And again, my top 3 don't necessarily correlate to the star rating. Star rating is for enjoyment. Top 3 are for the ones that stick with me. And because of that, a 2-star read gets the number 3 spot with Dry Water by Eric S. Nyland. Just those atmospheric moments, like with the thunderstorms and such, and the River of Time, like those moments were really atmospheric and really cool. The lives lived, because when they go into the River of Time, which is what my husband, like what he remembers of the book, they go into the River of Time and they live a life of somebody at that time period. So it's really, really cool. The locality of it, because again, New Mexico, um, that's where I'm from, so I always like when it's kind of something I recognize because I live here. And then just the premise was really, really interesting. So even though the writing wasn't very good, it was still a really interesting book. And then as far as my hauls, I did haul 14 books in March. All of these are ones though I specifically, again, I'm trying to be more mindful of my hauls. So none of these were ones from the thrift store. I haven't gone to the thrift store at all. These were all specifically ones that I've been wanting to pick up. So, like I got 2 for the Autism Reads, and like got the rest of the Black or Death Note Black Edition mangas. Some other ones that I've just been interested in reading. I got one that's a present for my husband for his birthday. So yeah, not too bad. But that is it for the wrap up. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you enjoyed them, or if you're interested in reading any of them, and what your favorite book from March was. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.